Hello everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to make a shopping bag which consists of only 3 stitches. So we're going to start off with, you will need 2 lengths of 76cm cord for the handles and 24 lengths of 2mm cord for the handles. Now I am using a 4mm cord. So we're going to start by just joining the 2 ends of one of the handles together and doing a simple overhand knot. So over we go. Doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed, and through the middle. Just make sure that this is the same length as the other end. We want them both the same length. Okay. So we have our one. Now we're going to take one of the 24 lengths we've cut, fold it in half, and mine's fraying a bit, but that's because it's nice cotton. We're going to take it down underneath that loop we have just formed for the handle, and then we're going to take the 2 ends. I'm going to place them back together so they're even, and we're going to place them through that loop. And if you pull from the 2 ends, place that there. There we go. And that is the log's head knot. So that's the first one. This is the second one. Again, I've evened them up. So down through the top, and then put the 2 ends through the middle and pull. Just try and keep your strings straight. I am pulling on the other end, holding these 2 ends. I'm quite close to there, just to try and make sure that they're even. I don't want the strings uneven at the end. A little bit's fine, but a lot is too much. So continue until you have added 12 of these strands to this handle. Right, now that all the cords are attached, we need to make them look a little bit tidier. So I'm going to move them round. So that they're all touching where I've done my overhand knots. Just so it's in one place. So just move them all along. And then we're going to start doing square knots. So this is the only other knot you'll need to learn, will be the square knot. Just make sure they're reasonably tight, reasonably flat. If you don't have a bump on every single set of strands that you've added, there is a problem. So it means you've done it the wrong way round, basically. It's not a problem because you can simply undo it and just redo again. Right. So we've got a handle and we've got our 12 strands. So I'm now going to attach this to my clipboard. You can either use a clipboard or just use something. I did have a paperweight up here. It seems to have gone up. Oh, here he is. Or use a paperweight, just hold your work down. If you've got something, it would be really handy. It just helps you, because you can see what's happening here. It's sliding off. And I like to work at an angle as well. So for this, the first 3 rows, I'm going to work on my clipboard. If you don't have a clipboard, you can use a hardback book. I'm just trying to get, I want these notches underneath at the moment. See why in a minute. They're going to be my guides now. Right. Okay, I'm not really combing these, I'm just flattening them so that we can try and get them in position. Right, so a square knot. We're going to want to do 6 square knots straight along the top. So a square knot in this design consists of 4 cords. So if you take the 4 cords on your left hand side, with the leftmost cord, make the letter C and just place it over the 3 cords. Lift up the cord to the right, cord 4. That goes over the top of your C. Now, because the cord's long, I'm just bundling it in my hand for easy manoeuvrability. Okay, that's all. The cord goes under the 2 middle cords, which are known as filler cords, and then up through the middle of your letter C. And then we take the 2 ends and then we pull them. Take note where my thumb is. I'm holding that there to keep the square cord taut. So there's 1. And 2. Now this square knot, sorry, I just realised I didn't demonstrate the other half. That's half of it. So for the other half, there. So we make the letter D. This is what I've just done very quickly, sorry. Letter D, and then again the left hand cord, pick it up over the top of that right hand cord. So it's totally in reverse what we've done first of all. Pull those together, keep your thumb, and keep these 2 cords flat. And there's your first square knot. I'll repeat again as I made a little bit of faux pas. Right now, as we're working from left to right, just make sure you use the next 4 cords and you use them in the right order. Don't twist them. Okay, so we started with our C. We lifted up the right hand cord. That come under the 2 filler cords in the middle of our C. And then we'll pull the 2 ends. Now, can you see what's happening as I'm not keeping my thumb on those 2 middle filler cords? They're starting to twist and turn. Just gently pull them down. Now keep them flat. So that's your first half. Now aim for this to be the same height. This horizontal bar to be the same height as the next one, roughly. Okay, so the other half of this square knot, we make our D. This is a bit I rushed through before. And with the cord on the left hand side again, this lifts over the D, under the 2 filler cords, and in the centre of your D. And that's our second square knot done. So now we want to carry on and complete another 4 square knots. So we'll have 6 square knots in that row. Right. We have completed the 6 square knots at the top. Now I have left a gap of approximately 3 centimetres or an inch. I know an inch is 2.5 centimetres, but I've left that sort of gap. Okay, I have put 2 cords to one side and I've done a row now of alternating square knots. So using the first 4 cords, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've made a square knot. And that sits now in the centre of the square knots above. So I've gone across and done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got 2, as I skipped at the beginning, and 2 I've skipped at the other side. We're now going to go back and do a full row of 5 square knots. Is it 5 or 6? Sorry, 2, 4, 5, 6 square knots straight the way across. And we're going to leave the same sort of gap. Now you've got your top gap for an idea. So we form our first square knot. Okay. And this also will show you how to make the gap that we made previously that I didn't video. I forgot to turn the camera on. Okay, so that, very similar to that. That's fine, I'm happy with that. It's a shopping bag. You're going to end up with gaps, and that's what we want. We want gaps in it. Because we didn't use cords 1 and cords 2 in the last row, we skipped them. That's why we get this nice long gap. I quite like it. It's a bit like filigree work. Right, I'm happy with that top bar being there. Let's finish this square knot. This is always the most difficult, this one. Okay, so that's one. So when we get to the next one, again, the next 4 cords, and just make sure they're flat. Okay, and under we go. So that's about the same height, roughly. If you wish to use a ruler, as I said earlier, you can. But I'm happy with them. I threatened my husband I was making a string vest. So if you complete that and do the 6 square knots right to the end of the row. Right, now I've completed the 6 square knots going across. We want to repeat that whole pattern, what we've done so far, on the other side. So in Rolf Harris style, here's one I completed earlier. Okay. So it's looking roughly the same length. It might be a bit shorter, but so you need to do exactly the same, replicate it. Don't worry if, like mine, it's just slightly shorter. That will be amended. Okay, so make your knot, lark's head knot, and then it will be your 3 rows of square knots, and we'll carry on in a moment. Right, now we're going to start joining the 2 sides of the bag together. I've moved to my clothes rail for doing this. Now I have placed the 2 sides on top of each other, but I've made sure that the lark's head knot bumps are both facing each other on the inside. This in effect is going to be the inside of the bag because we'll be turning it inside out later. So we're going to start, let me lower that a little bit for you. We're going to start by again doing alternate square knots, but this time we're going to be going all the way round. So take a square knot from above, take the 2 right hand cords. I'm working anti-clockwise, okay, left to right, and the 2 cords of the next square knot above. And again, make another square knot, roughly the same gap as there. This isn't, once you get one of these done, it's not a problem. So there's one. Okay, and then we'll carry on round. We're going to be aiming for approximately 10 rows in total. You've already done 3, and we're actually on row 4 now, just in case you're beginning to think, oh, I'm going to be here for hours. No, you won't be here for hours, and I can guarantee you that. So get the idea, going around, they're roughly the same height. So we'll just carry on all the way round, and I'll be back with you when I finish this side. So I've done the square knots just along this side. Now we're going to join two sides, and to do this is just simply carrying on the square knot, but this time you'll be using the two hanging down cords from the left side and obviously the two from the right. So some are coming from the front, some are coming from the back. Just get it even with that. But make sure the cords are straight. Okay. High. How's that? Yes. He was trying to sneak in as well. Okay. Now that cord there, I'm now going to turn this around for you. Turn the whole thing around. I like these things. And we can see, move back on there, sorry. We can see where we've just done that side cord to join our bag. But also it gives us a guide point for the next 4 knots. Bit low. So it might not be totally even with this side at the back. It's not too bad actually. It's not bad, isn't it? So we'll just carry on and we'll finish that row until we reach the end here. And it will all be hanging lovely. So carry on with the square knots and leave the last 4 on this row. So we're at the last 4 cords on this row, and this is where we're going to join the other side of the bag. So again, just make sure that all the cords are even and do another square knot. Line it up with that one. Oh, he's starting to twist. Don't let them twist. Okay. A bit high. Yes, that's about right. And that's another row finish now. This now makes it easier because your bag is actually circular. So now for the next row, we're going to leave another gap. And again, we're going to do the alternate square knot. So start where you like, but make sure you're taking 2 cords of left from 1 square knot and 2 cords to the right of the next square knot. And we're going to keep going round. Again, do another whole row, turning it. This is, you can adapt the pattern if you want to make your gaps smaller, make your gaps smaller. But as I said, we're aiming in total. So that's joining that. We've got a nice sort of triangle. We're aiming for 10 rows of square knots in total, and we're just starting row 5 at the moment. The hardest part is getting the square knots done if you've not done them before. And then afterwards, it is simple. It will, like you can see, I'm just flowing through them. It took me a while to learn. Just make sure they're even and work round, and then keep on the rows going down, working round. Right, I've now got 9 rows of alternating square knots done. Now, when I said aim for 10, your 10th row is going to be an alternating row, but we're not going to leave a gap. Row 10 is going to be a tight square knot. There we are, like it was at the beginning, because we're aiming here when on the finishing hurdle now. So we want a row of tight square knots. And these should work out even so no gaps between this row and the previous row. If you haven't got enough cord left to do this row, you're going to have to undo a row, because we also need some cord for tying on the inside. So just carry on with this all the way round, and then we will proceed to the next step, the final making up of your bag. Right, we've just completed the row of square knots that's tight against the previous row, and we're going to tie one more complete row of square knots that again is tight. We don't want stuff falling out the bottom of our bags, basically, do we? So if you go around and form all of those nice and tightly up against all the way round. Okay. And that is what your bag is going to look like now that all the rows of knots are done. There's a bit of cord left. Some are a lot shorter than others, as you can see. Now we're going to need those to tie knots at the bottom. So we're going to take the bag off of the hanger that I'm using. This is how I'm hanging it up. And I'm going to work on it now flat on the table. Right, we're back on my table with the bag. Now what we're going to do, so there are the two handles. If you just work down the side, have a look down the side, get the two central cords and the two cords next to them, either side. So it'd be the 4 central cords, and just place them away. Then with each of the next cords, just tie an overhand knot with those 2 cords. I might suggest doing a double actually. I'm going to do a double overhand knot, so once, twice. Okay. Move that over. Then take the next 2 cords and form the same again. So it's going to be sitting beside it. The light's not brilliant on this today, is it? Let me try plugging in my other light for you. Let's see if this makes any difference. That's kind of extremely not sure if that's any better or not, actually. Go to the green. So I've moved the 4 central knots coming down the side of the bag over. I tied 1 double overhand knot with the next 2 knots, another double overhand knot with the next 2 cords rather, and then if you just keep working along 2 cords at a time with those, and just do a double overhand knot. Okay, so you've got your hole in the middle, so we know, you can see now where you're working from. And 1, 2, okay. So cords are still hiding up there. Okay, so the next 2, and just keep working all the way along the base, so you're bringing it all together. 2, then the next 2 cords, 1, 2, right, they're the next 2, are they, or is it those 2? This again, try and make sure you're using the right 2 cords, 1, 2, and I'm not putting too tight on them, okay? This is what I mean about some of the cords getting very short as well. This is where I'm going to struggle a little bit with this one. So use a longer cord as your over cord. 1, 2, and the next 2. Oh. And just keep going along. A cord from each side with a double overhand knot. Right, now that we've double knotted all the way along, these 4 cords we left at the beginning, we just do not need to double knot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to trim the ends off. Okay. Try not to cut obviously into the bag. Doesn't matter having bits like this hanging around. Once we trim this off, if you wish, you can put some glue on these double knots that we've just made. That's optional, just to hold it in place. Now make sure you've got some really nice sharp scissors. So now we're going to turn the bag in the right way. So, because we've been working on it inside out. So turn it inside out. With my little bits of spare cord that I keep. Can you see the base there of the bag now? So just push it in the corners. There is your completed bag. You can see all your lark's head knots, the tops just there. So one completed bag. And there is our completed bag hanging up. Let's take another one. Let's put it across. For you. And that's it. Over and done.